Each year, one of my favorite parts of the Consortium of MS Centers annual meeting is when Dr. Kathy Zackowski, the Associate Vice President of Research at the National MS Society, drops by to share her perspective on some of the sessions at the conference that she found particularly interesting. As you can see, she takes a lot of very careful notes. Welcome back to the podcast, Dr. Zackowski.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be back.
It would not be the same conference if I didn't get to talk to you. It's truly my favorite part. You know, there's an awful lot being presented this year, especially more sessions than ever before. Which presentations have you found to be noteworthy?
Yeah, so it's only the beginning, right? Today is day one. So we've had Dr. Anthony Feinstein gave a really great keynote speech. And what I really appreciated about his talk, so Dr. Feinstein is a psychiatrist from Canada who has been in the field of MS for a very long time, has changed how we treat depression because we know it has a biological elements to MS. And I know that's not new news, but it was really nice to hear how we came to that decision and the studies that were required to come to that understanding. And understanding the importance of cognitive reserve. And you need to work hard and play hard is how he put it. And my understanding of that was you need to work your brain, so we need to be doing focused activities with how we think. But then we also need to play, and by that we need to be social and make lots of connections because both of those things help build what's called cognitive reserve. And when you have MS, if cognition starts to become a problem, the more you've built up your cognitive reserve, the less you will feel some of those changes in your overall function.
You know, one of the things I really appreciate about Dr. Feinstein is when you hear a therapist talk about something, very often you come away thinking they spend all day talking to their patients and listening to people, and they have opinions, but it's a soft science until you meet Anthony Feinstein because he brings all the evidence.
He does.
And he has it. He actually, as we heard, he does functional MRI where he has people in MRI, but doing things so he can see what part of the brain is being activated and how that relates to MS and other things. And yeah, he's been doing it a long time. And in addition to all his research, his practice focuses on people living with MS.
Yeah, and I think he's set a really nice precedent in that he ran a really large clinical trial that ended about 2 years ago. And he didn't meet his primary outcome, but he has done enough for secondary analyses to pull out of that what are the important elements of that trial. I think that's a really important lesson for many scientists to take home too.
And it's great to have that lesson in analysis come from the therapist.
Yeah, definitely. You're right. He's very good at translating all of the science into why do I care? If I have MS, why do I care about all of this?
Right. And he can tell you exactly why you should. Exactly. Right. What else? What else happened today?
I'm going to tell you about yesterday. So I was in an all-day meeting. It's called the Fellowship Forum. And it was about 100 fellows. These are physicians and other clinician providers who are still in training, but at the very tail end of their training, before they start out on their career in MS. And they're invited for a day where I took part in a couple of panels where about 10 of us who are scientists or clinicians in MS basically talked about how we got to this part of our career. Like, how did we end up studying MS? How did we end up treating MS? Why do we want careers in this area? I thought it was just really important to be talking to that younger generation. So the panel was like, we're here now doing it. And then everyone in the audience, 100 fellows, they're the future of what we're expecting. And there is a really bright future for this. The onset of AI, the use of more technology, all of those things are just at the very beginning stages. And I think we need these young scientists and strong minds to feel forward.
Absolutely. Having that next generation of MS experts is really important. And I don't know if everybody watching us knows how the National MS Society for years has had a formal program to recruit and support MS fellows so that next generation of experts will be there.
Yeah, we even started a program for undergraduates. So it's a summer program, and it's essentially for college students who might be interested in science but have never had an opportunity to really participate in a research laboratory. So the society has picked out 14 of these individuals, and we've also paired them with established scientists in the MS area. And we pay the scientist to bring these people on, and then we pay the student to be able to move to where that scientist is, spend 10 weeks in their laboratory and learn about MS. And the hope is that before you even made a decision what kind of work you're going to do, we want to get you excited about MS research.
Just got me excited.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed that opportunity a few decades ago.
Yeah, I think it's really fun. This is only our second year, but the first year reviews were really good. Both the mentors and the students loved it. So it seems like it's going well.
Well, that's awesome. Anything else occur to you the last day and a half?
Well, one thing I want to talk about, that hasn't happened yet, but will happen tomorrow morning, but I think is really interesting, is there's a small symposium called the International Symposium on Gait and Balance in MS. And it's a small day-long program that happens every year, and it's really designed to help give scientists a place to network, really focused on gait and balance and multiple sclerosis. And this year, you're collaborating with the consortium of MS centers. And so we're having a morning session tomorrow that is focused on wheelchair falls and safety. And so we brought 3 different scientists in to talk about different aspects, because you might not even think that someone in a wheelchair would be at risk of falling. But it turns out that there's studies and there's evidence that this is a problem, and that we need to better understand how to keep people who have to be in wheelchairs safe and mobile, but teach the providers also like how best to help those patients.
You know, one of the issues I should explain to our viewers is when you come to a conference like this, you can't be everywhere at once. You need to make hard choices sometimes, and there are some conflicts that won't go away, that you can't get out of. That's a session I'm going to have to miss. So I contacted one of those experts, one of those scientists who's going to be presenting tomorrow, and my audience will be happy to know that Dr. Laura Rice will be joining us in just a couple of weeks. She has already given me a preview on what she's talking about tomorrow. So we still get to share that, even though I don't get to sit in on the session.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that you pulled her out. I think she'll be really great. And yeah, it's just a unique aspect of what people have to get through if they're living in a wheelchair.
Very true. Absolutely. And you're right. People think, oh, you're in a chair, you can't fall.
Right.
Well, not only can you, but when you fall and there's a chair involved, you can get seriously injured.
Right. So we need to understand, what do we know now? Where are the gaps? And how do we teach providers and people with MS the important things to be careful about?
Especially when people in the rehabilitation field are reminding us how important exercise is at every level of ability. And that includes people who may be wheelchair bound. They need to clearly understand how to exercise safely so they get the benefit without putting themselves at risk, right?
Right. And one of the speakers, Stephanie Silvera, is going to be talking about a specific study that she's doing, which is looking at exercise for people who are in wheelchairs. So, right. That's the beauty of this meeting, is really being able to invite the comprehensive care team here and to share, results from studies, but also to network and to build collaboration so that we can solve some of these things more quickly.
Your professional background is in rehabilitation, and you are an associate vice president of research, which involves more than rehabilitation. Have you noticed an increase in the science being presented at CMSC?
This year has been astounding, actually. Very, very strong changes in programming that have really been exciting for me to watch. So I have to make choices. At this particular meeting, there are multiple sessions at the same time. So you have to choose which one to go to. And I'm so glad that some of the sessions are being recorded, because that's what I'll have to do, because you can't be in more than one place at one time. But I've been very excited about these changes. I hope that continues, because I also think it's important for physicians to be aware of some of these issues that they might not see day to day in their clinic, but the other rehabilitation providers really have to grapple with. And it's important for the rehabilitation professionals to interact with the physicians and understand where they're coming from. So this conference allows all of that.
And at the same time, I think that there is a greater emphasis on bringing rehabilitation research more into line with the steps, focus, and analysis that's applied to pure science research.
Right.
Some of that hard analytical approach, I think, being applied to studies in rehabilitation makes what we were talking about with Dr. Feinstein before all of a sudden you have evidence that makes the argument for you.
Right. Because basic biomedical research, you can often control variables in a very different way than you do when you're working on a behavioral choice or a rehabilitation approach. And I think some of those issues everyone needs to be aware of so that we can still build rigorous scientific trials around these behavior interventions.
Good point. As you were saying that, I was thinking such a difference between working with a molecule and working with a whole person.
Right, exactly. And the reality is lots of research is done in animal models, which is so needed because you can control those variables, but we have to be able to translate that to people. And so having, scientists that are trained in human behavior, I think that's going to be really important for making that big leap from an animal model to a translation to people.
Well, we're seeing great science this year. We're seeing cutting-edge rehabilitation being presented. I think this year is one of the best lineups in terms of content that I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, I agree. Even the Whitaker, so there's a Whitaker research track, and there's a couple of people in there that are not basic biomedical researchers. And so that track is really designed for kind of the up-and-coming young scientist. So it was great to see there's one person looking at aging and MS and really trying to not just understand aging using imaging, but using imaging and then relating it to clinical factors. And so I think that's an example of how this conference offers that opportunity and seems to be growing in that direction.
Dr. Kathy Zackowski, every year, this is the conversation I look forward to the most. I want to thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time on what I know is an incredibly busy day.
Thank you. Well, thank you for giving me a platform to share my thoughts. I really appreciate that.